Great. Well, welcome everybody. Firstly, let's make sure you are at the right webinar. So this is AI Ready Leadership, Understanding Data Maturity for Competitive Advantage. So hopefully you're all in the webinar that you've expected with Data Cubed. So this is going to be a double act from me and Nick, and Helen is facilitating, and she's our question or quiz master at the end. We'll do proper introductions in a bit. So next slide, Nick. So the whole premise, why we've set up this webinar is that every leader we're speaking to wants to harness the power of AI. You know, huge press last year around ChatGPT, but that's just one AI solution. I'm sure none of you managed to miss that. It was all over the press. Even my dad has heard about ChatGPT, and he's 75. So the whole thing about this is every business leader we're talking to is really excited by this. Every business leader we're talking to wants to harness the power of AI, but are you ready? Is your organization ready? And are you ready as business leaders? So this whole session today is for you to explore, are you prepared? Are you ready? And where you're not, what you're going to need to do to get prepared. So in terms of some stats, here are some that we found from our friends at Accenture. So here are some quotes here from a recent report that they did. So most companies do not have mature data capabilities. And if you can't use your data, you can't use AI. So we've been doing loads of stuff in both data and AI for a long time, and that's an eminently sensible statement. But some of these other facts are really interesting, and we were really interested in them when they came out. So 75% of C-suite execs believe if you don't scale around artificial intelligence in the next 5 years, you're going to be out of business. So that's a really striking fact, right? Really interesting. I'm surprised that number's quite so high at the moment, but you know, again, not surprised that lots of C-suite execs are thinking like that. And then we've got this other stat: 76% are struggling to scale AI in their business. I'm surprised that's actually, I would have thought that would be a lot higher. So I think most businesses, apart from the top Silicon Valley ones, would probably say they're scaling AI. I think it's only the top innovators who are truly scaling and using it in everything they do. So really interesting stats, and I'm sure you might have seen some of these in the press as well. So in terms of introduction, so I am Hels, for those of you who don't know me. I founded Data Cubed 6.5 years ago. We are a global data and AI consultancy. We've been working in both data and AI for all that time. What's new and in terms of AI is the Gen AI stuff, and we're going to talk through some of the jargon, do some jargon busting a bit later. But that's us. We've delivered lots of different data and AI projects for 70 plus clients in that time, and we've got a global team as well. And I use this little phrase, which some of you might have heard from me if you've heard from me on LinkedIn. If you're in data hell, I am data Hels. And I also wrote that book, The Data Escalator, during COVID. I can't see me ever writing another book. It was pretty brutal experience, but that's me. So, and I'm one of your hosts today. And then over to you, Nick. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Hels. And I'm Nick. I'm Nick Merry. I'm the Product and Partnerships Director at Data Cubed. So my area is focused on solving problems through data, and it's often using AI as a tool to deliver those solutions.
Great, thanks, Nick. And as I say, we're ably assisted by Helen, who heads up our marketing function as well today. So just quickly,
just jump in there, Hels. We just use the Q&A
yeah.
section for the questions today. I think the chat function's not enabled for some, so yeah, just use the Q&A and direct all your questions there. And we've got one lined up already, so we'll look forward to coming back to that later.
Awesome. Yeah, give us some hard questions. We're open for that. So add them all in. We'll answer them all at the end. So yeah, we're Data Cubed. We help our clients transform and particularly deliver data and AI transformations. We operate globally across Bristol in the UK as our HQ, but we're also in New Zealand, which is where I am right now. It's 11 p.m. at night, so my throat might sound a bit husky, and we've also got operations in Europe. So next slide. So ChatGPT has exploded. So you've probably seen some of these charts, right? Showing the rapid adoption of ChatGPT. And as I say, it's AI has been around a long time. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But the rapid adoption of ChatGPT has felt unprecedented based on these stats. But also, I'm sure, like me, you're finding you're talking to people who are not particularly techie, never been really into AI and tech, but they've discovered ChatGPT and they've been using it to ask questions about external information, and they're starting to go, why can't life just be this easy? And certainly, why can't business life be this easy? So I'm sure the ChatGPT and everything around this has not escaped any of you. So it's been crazy. But the challenge for all of us is, how do you reap the benefits of this amazing new tech without the risks? And here are some headlines that you might have seen, like lots of understandable fear out there about sharing data. So we've got some quotes here from Apple and Samsung around, banning people using ChatGPT. If you walk away with one thing from this webinar today, please don't put any data of yours and your organization into ChatGPT or into any public AI tool, because you are releasing it to the world. So really, you need to, some of this, the attack of the psycho chatbot, could well be real. We've all seen the Terminator, but some of these risks are very practical.
Okay, it looks like Hells is frozen.
Know where you're putting it, and make sure all of your team know where they're putting it too.
You froze for a brief second there, Hells.
Sorry guys, my internet isn't brilliant, which is great timing, isn't it? And then alongside that, how do you get your head around all the acronyms? I've put AI, Gen AI, LLMs. Have you heard of those? ChatGPT, NLP, ML. There's probably loads of others, right? And we're going to do a bit of jargon busting a bit later, so we'll come back to that. And then the last challenge is there is so much tech out there, and there are so many tools being released every single day. This chart here, which I've shared the URL there in the middle, madfirstmark.com. If you go onto this URL, you will see an interactive tool which shows you everything that they've classed as MAD, so machine learning, AI, and data. All of these logos on here are tools that are in the data, machine learning, and AI space. And this is just a snapshot of a huge interactive diagram. There are so many that a big challenge for all of us is, which one or ones do we select? And that's a big challenge for us too. So that's some of the kind of challenges that we've gone through. So let's start with busting some of that jargon, because there are loads of acronyms out there and loads of tools. So I like to think about it as this kind of circular little diagram here that starts on the outside. Let's start with artificial intelligence, and some of these quotes are ones I've made up. Some of them they're ones that I've kind of found in the internet and thought were brilliant. So consider them in that kind of way. But the first one we've got here, artificial intelligence, making machines think like humans. Within that, so a subset of AI is machine learning, and this is a branch of AI that uses data and algorithms to imitate the way humans learn. Now, AI and machine learning have been around for a long time. We've been doing AI and machine learning projects at DataCubed ever since we began, and I was working on these types of projects for years before I set up DataCubed. The next ones are the newer terms and the ones that have really kind of hit the press. So within machine learning, you've got generative AI, often called Gen AI. This is a type of machine learning capable of creating content. And you will have seen, these are the types of things you will see if you've seen the new or AI generated videos, only came out last week, really has propelled to the kind of next level. But you've got similar tools that create music and text and all things. Within that, large language models, this is Gen AI focused on generating text. And then ChatGPT is a brand name, if you like, rather than a type of technology, but it's a large language chatbot created by OpenAI, who are an organization that have been acquired by Microsoft. And then Data Interrogator, this is my term. So so whether this takes off or not will depend on everyone on this webinar and whether you start using it, right? But I like to think of, you know, we've got data analytics, we've got data engineering, we've got data consultancy, data architecture. I think Data Interrogator is my term for a private, secure instance of ChatGPT that enables your organization to really easily have a Q&A exploration of your data. So think about it as ChatGPT, but only looking at your data in a completely private, secure location. That's what I'm referring to as a data interrogator. And as I say, we'll see whether it takes off. But I'm going for it. I'm going to give it a go. So next, AI has been around for decades. So this diagram shows, you know, the term was first coined in 1956, according to Wikipedia. There was lots of activity, you know, particularly in the 60s and 70s, but the tech wasn't available then, right? The chips weren't available to actually do the work. It then kind of, you know, went through a kind of 80s boom. There was the Deep Blue chess match, for any of you who recall. We've been doing, as I say, AI and machine learning projects since 2017 when we founded. But really, it was last year that ChatGPT, Gen AI, large language models, and all of those things completely exploded. And I feel it's really it's been a total shift change. I think up until last year, AI was this optional thing that people were playing with. It now feels it's totally gone mainstream. That's the way that I'm thinking about it. It's been around a long time, but it's now totally mainstream, and everybody's talking about it, not just tech people. So in terms of why should you, you know, why have you joined this call, and why should you think about becoming AI ready, and or getting AI readier, if for some of you might think you're already kind of on the start of that journey. Well, I think I like to think about it as this kind of pyramid you can see in front of you. I think first of all, there's a real opportunity to use these new tools and this new tech for automation, just making things better, quicker, easier, speeding things up, and therefore reducing cost. You know, I think that's often the first use cases when I'm out there talking to our clients, talking to our leads. Often that's where the conversation starts. It's why do I need to create all these dashboards? Why do we need to do all this analytics and have this team of data engineers? Why can't we just have a ChatGPT type interface that points at our data and our stakeholders can just ask questions of it? Or our people on the call, you know, people in the call center can just have it as their kind of co-pilot as they're doing calls when people call in. That at the moment is the start of the conversation that I'm talking to people about. Surely with this new technology, we should be able to do things much quicker and easier within our organization, which then improves the way that you deliver service to your internal stakeholders, but also to your clients as well. That's often, I think, where probably 70–80% of the conversations right now with the people I'm talking to start and are focused on. The next one then is growth. How can we use this technology to grow faster, scale quicker, increase our revenue or profit, lift and drop from one country to another, those types of things. That's the next level for organizations that have got high growth plans. How can they fast track that? And then at the top of the pyramid is how can you create an advantage? So this could be a new competitive advantage in your market, a new USP. We all work in markets that are often highly competitive, highly commoditized. finding genuine USPs versus competitors can be really, really hard. This new technology could give you a chance to create new sources of competitive advantage, or a way to monetize your data and create new revenue streams and to truly innovate. So these are the types of things that you should be thinking about in your business case, I suppose, as to why this is something that you should be considering, and whether it's right for your organization. In terms of it's over to you, Nick. I thought I had another slide there.
Sorry, I thought
we're so slick on this presentation. So yeah, that's it from me. Nick is now going to make this real for you and show you some demos.
Okay, so thanks, Hels. So I need to switch between this presentation and a demonstration. So just give me 1 second. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. What I meant to do was end this and jump onto this. Okay. Can you see my screen, everybody? Yes. Okay.
We can, Nick. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just an example of a generative AI, a data interrogator. So taking a big report, in this case an ESG report, plugging it into your data interrogator, and then starting to quiz it with specific poignant questions that you might want to get specific answers out of. So really good example would be like within the legal industry, let's say. So huge volumes of documentation that needs to be scrutinized to pull out key points. And a generative AI, a data interrogator of this nature, can do it very, very easily. But obviously the point is what goes in is influences what comes out. So make sure that you're confident with the information that you're putting in before you start asking of the outputs. So I'll just let this little bird, oh, there we go, it's finished. Perfect timing, look at that. Right, now let me go back to the presentation.
Probably while you're doing that, Nick, I think the other thing is, at the moment, this is such bleeding edge technology, which is a term coined by James Parr, our head of tech. It's so new that the examples we're showing you are DataCube's examples. It's us, what we've built for ourselves, what we've built to play. This is where we're at right now, rather than having a suite of case studies. It's all so embryonic and so new. So that's why we're showing the types of things that we've built.
True. So let's continue the same scenario with ESG. So it was something else we did. We took a B Corp dashboard. So DataCube we're on our B Corp journey ourselves. So we thought it would be relevant to help us along that journey. So imagine the scenario that you're sitting with your senior team around your war table, or whatever it is you call it, where you make decisions, and you're looking at your key performance metrics of your business. One metric pops up and you want to know a little bit more about it. So do you A, pause the meeting, brief an analyst, wait a couple of days, get a report, reconvene, relook at the information, and then eventually make a decision and move on? So that's taken a period of time. Or do you B, just ask your data interrogator? So a data interrogator, as you said, can be plugged into a source of data for you to be able to quiz it in real time. You can get an answer immediately. And if you think about it, this could be a step further. It could be an interrogator in your pocket. You could have this available to you at any point in time on your smart device, on your mobile phone. And a step even further, within DataCube, we talk a lot about data democratization. By democratizing data is how businesses become forward-thinking. They become disruptors in their industries and can really push the boundaries. So if all of your team had the ability to ask your data for insights and information to make decisions quickly on the fly and learn new things, then the business, there's no stopping it, basically. So, but just a quick question is to consider what would it take to enable something like this within your organization. So what would be needed to make this possible? Okay, next slide. So, and the answer to that, or part of the answer to that, is rooted in the data. And so, data it can be measured, or data within an organization can be measured as maturity. So, how mature is your data? How mature is your organization when it comes to data? But there are two halves to the story. There is a technology side and there's a human side. And it's really important to note that one can't work without the other. You can have all the technology you want, but if the people aren't bought into it, it's not going to do anything. Likewise, you can have all the motivation, all the mindset that you want, but if you haven't got any technology, it's not going to work. So there are two sides to data maturity, technology and human. And what we have done, we've built this into, well, this is a tool we use with all of our clients in order to measure the state of affairs when it comes to data within their organization. So we have the 6 pillars of data maturity. So that's architecture, governance, culture, analytics, quality, and risk management. We measure the state of affairs within each one of those. And then it gives us an indication, or gives you and your company an indication of the state of maturity, how mature you are against each one of those pillars. And then this can be transplanted onto the data transformation journey. Lots of data jargon, but the data transformation journey is the path ahead of you if you want to embrace data and AI. And by mapping the data maturity score onto it, it will give you an indication of how ready you are for adopting AI. And what we're going to do here, so the next sort of section of this webinar is going to dive into each one of these pillars, fairly high level, and we'll give you a bit of an idea, a bit of a flavor of why each one is important and what's its relevance to getting AI ready. So I'm going to start with architecture. So what is data architecture? So it's how your data is structured within your organization. It's how it flows through all the systems within the organization. And to be AI ready, your objective, and to be honest, to be data ready, your objective should be about achieving a single source of truth. So all of your data is structured in a way that it points to the same place. So you ever ask those questions in an organization and somehow you get 2 answers to the same question, that's because there is not a single source of truth of the information it's being gleaned from. But why is good architecture relevant for AI readiness? So if you have a single source of truth, the AI won't get confused. You'll be able to simplify its adoption. You'll be able to ensure the quality of the data within the AI, within the outputs. And you will reduce the risk, because poor data in means poor results out. And you could be led down the garden path through poor quality data or poor architecture, which can influence your decision-making process. It could also mean that the investment you put into installing AI within your business, adopting it within your business, is investment well spent. So it reduces the risk of a poor investment. But Hels, just a quick question for you. What are good indicators that a business is not ready when it comes to data architecture?
Yeah, so I think if your organization has got disconnected, disparate data sources, that's an indication that your architecture isn't ready, right? So think about if you've got some customer data in one area, some finance data in another, some operational data in another, sales data in another, which is very common, I should add. Most organizations have some element of disparate, disconnected data. But if they're all separate and there's no way to connect them all together with some nice, unique customer ID, then that's going to be a problem, and that's something that you're going to need to kind of work through to really derive value. Now, you can point AI just at one data source and derive some value from it, but often there's a value in deriving value from lots of data sources combined. So that's the if you've got disconnected, siloed, disparate data, along with probably manual processes. If you've got lots of spreadsheets, lots of manual processes, little automation, again, you've probably in a place that you're not ready yet. And then Nick, you're probably going to ask me the opposite, are you?
So what does good look like?
Is the opposite. So having a scalable technology stack that you can easily and quickly add new data sources into, and that could be internal data sources or external ones. Having a unique IDs, unique identifiers that will connect, whether it's your customers or your assets, depending on your organization, but connecting the things that are important across your different data sources. And another indicator that you're probably in a good place is if you have the concept of a single customer view, and you can look at a customer across through multiple lens. Those are the types of things that would be indicators that you are more AI ready from an architecture perspective.
Thanks, Hels. Okay, so the next pillar on the data maturity score is quality. So quality simply means, is your data fit for purpose to support the outcomes it is being used for? Data quality is, I mean, everything has an impact. Data quality is the backbone of good AI or useful AI, because as we've already said a couple of times, poor data in means poor results out. And an AI is only as good as the information it's attached to. So poor quality data will deliver inaccurate outcomes. Simple as that. It's going to give you just false readings, false outputs. But it will also increase bias, and bias is a subject that has been well documented with in the last 12 months with ChatGPT particularly, and AI in general. So if you consider social media as an example, you plugged a generative AI tool into social media and started asking it questions, it's going to be influenced by what people put into those social media accounts. Now, people always put in their best selves. They don't put their real selves. They put in who they aspire to be fundamentally. Maybe I'm slightly biased. But the point is that it will only go with the information it's got. So it's going to give you a skewed outlook on life. And it'll also give you false reasoning. So if all the data within your organization is patchy, then it's not presenting the full picture. So it cannot understand the full picture, and therefore it can lead you, it can recommend the wrong direction to go in based upon the fact that it hasn't got the complete picture. So over to you, Hels, once again. What are good indicators that a business is not ready?
So I think you could start with a pretty subjective view, which would be, do people generally trust it, right? Is there a culture of trusting the data within your organization, or is there a culture of mistrust? So if you know the general consensus is we don't trust the data, there's usually something in that. But another way to look at it would be, if you're just not testing data quality and you're not checking it, and there's no metrics and audits and reporting, then you don't know. So that would be the other way of if the answer is I don't know whether our data, how good our data is, and how complete it is, and how consistent it is, and whether it's the same things are in captured in the same way, and all those things, then you're not ready either, because you want to have those checks in place. And then the opposite, to be kind of AI ready in this space would be having a culture where data is trusted and that it has been tested, but also again that you've got checks and audits in place that prove it objectively as well. So that balance of subjectivity and objectivity in here would be the things that would help you determine which end of the spectrum you're on.
Thanks, Els. Okay, so on to the next one. So analytics. So gleaning insight and information from one or more data sets that typically informs decision making. So AI-powered analytics is incredibly powerful. It can transform your organization, as I briefly touched on before, to be disruptive, to be innovative, to be insightful. But if data science is a subject that is at the moment sort of within the domain of analysts and data engineers, but everybody has the potential of being a data scientist. So you don't have to be data literate to be able to use generative AI to query your data and get useful outcomes, useful insights. So going back to the Pocket integrator that we mentioned earlier, if everybody in your business had the ability to query a company's data, that's really, really powerful. Your business, I mean, the culture will start to be geared around it, and every decision will be based on an analytics approach. Els, what is a good indicator that they're not ready when it comes to this?
Sorry, did I drop off? I think I dropped off there, Nick. Did you come through for the question?
That's right, it's late. It's late. It's New Zealand.
Exactly. A bit slow. So in terms of, indicators that you're not AI ready, I guess on this level, there's, probably what you're doing at the moment is reporting and factual reporting and dashboards, and probably using things like Excel and Google Sheets. And whilst those tools are great, they're not advanced analytics. So at the other end of the spectrum would be, if you're AI ready, is you've got a culture and a process and a way of delivering data science and AI projects already. These with all these projects, it's not just about the statistical models and the predictive models that you develop. It's about what are the use cases? How do they help you? How do you interpret the data science and AI outputs? So there's a cultural element to analytics as well. So a big part of what being AI ready would be about as well would be around having that culture of self-serve and democratized access to data. That would mean you're at the kind of the AI ready stage. Whereas if you've got data that's just reporting, just factual in Excel and Google Sheets, and it's just looked after by one department, you're probably at the not AI ready end of the spectrum.
This is a really good example of one where the human and technology start to go really hand in hand. You've got to have the tools to be able to analyze things, but if you haven't got the mindset, then it's just not going to happen. Okay, so moving on to the next one, risk management. Not the most exciting of subjects, but a hot subject at the moment when it comes to AI for obvious reasons. People, as Els has already mentioned, no AI through the Terminator. So we don't want to end up in that sort of world. But data risk management is the control processes an organization uses to eliminate data risk. And risks include things like security, things like being compliant or not with legislation, and also opening yourself up or your organization up to be data abused. So very important, often an afterthought. It shouldn't create a fear of data. But simple measures can be put in place to mitigate against this sort of thing. So, Els, what does an organisation that's not ready look like?
It's having a kind of low understanding in this space, a low understanding of regulation and security, perhaps a feeling of a tick box exercise when it comes to like having a DPO officer and things like that, and having a policy, but it not being embedded or understood. And again, that's really common. It's a really common place to start. You start with a policy, you tick the boxes, but it's not embraced, I suppose. It's probably more feared than embraced. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you know, it's organizations that are owning and embracing those risks. And this is all, everything in business is not about reducing risk to zero, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be in business at all. It's about informing risk-informed decisions, right? And making sure that you understand what your risks are before you decide to do something. So if you're AI ready, it's having that risk culture, having a risk register, having a way to assess risk, having it be something that is not feared, but talked openly about. Again, it's a cultural element. It's not just a kind of tick box templates and those types of things. But yeah, a signs you're not ready would be just feeling you're not ready and have a low understanding of what the risks are, which right now, this is such an evolving and new technology. Most of us don't fully understand all the risks, right? And we're in such an R&D kind of landscape with this that's really normal. So don't worry if you don't fully understand them all. All of us are learning every day.
It's just a final point on that. When it comes to compliance, it's one of those things that if you as an organization, every organization has data, and so you have a moral and legal obligation to mitigate the risks against it. But when it comes to compliance, if you're making inroads, if you're trying, if you're seen to be mitigating as much as you can, then and things do go wrong, the authorities are not going to throw you in jail. If you're doing absolutely nothing, if you're just like blasé about it, then they might have a different view on things. But you do have a moral and legal obligation. Every organization has data. Regardless of whether they want to or not, everybody does. And it's just about considering the risks and trying to mitigate them as much as you can. Okay. The next pillar on the list is governance. So these are measures and policies adopted to ensure good and purposeful data practice. So similar theme to risk management, but this one is particularly relevant for AI adoption, because you can do a project to sort out your data quality and your data architecture from a technical perspective. A one-off. If you don't put governance measures in place, that data will degrade over time. So you need to make sure that the quality is maintained or improved over time. And that is typically done through good governance processes and procedures. In addition to ensuring that it doesn't degrade, you can improve access. So governance can help put data into the hands of the people who need it when they need it, the right data, and also improve an understanding of data. So governance can also sort of go into the sort of the training, the personal development side of things, to help businesses or help people within the business understand how they can get the most out of that data. All good governance. So Hells, what does an organization look like that isn't ready from a governance perspective?
Probably having no policies or very high level and perhaps templated policies, which is very common when particularly when you're a startup and small business. And then, you know, what does good look like? It's having a data catalog, or in other words, having true transparency over all the data you have, and knowing who is accountable for all of those sources of data, and having that very clear and well communicated to everybody.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so the last of the pillars, culture. The collective mindset of people and how they value data and how they utilize it. So very, very important in my opinion. It's often the thing that organizations don't embrace as much. They think, oh, we've got the solutions, we've got the tech, off we go. But again, if people aren't bought into it, they don't understand it, then it's not going to go very far. But what a good culture, a good data culture, good AI culture can look like, can unlock the disruptive potential of insight within the data. So everybody becomes insight-led and making decisions based upon information that's at hand rather than pure instinct. Don't get me wrong, instinct is a good thing as well, but you need to balance them. It can ensure that your people are truly AI ready to bring people along a data culture within your organization. And it will also reduce AI anxiety. So there's a lot of conversation around jobs disappearing because of AI. And now that might happen to a degree in the future, but right here, right now, and for the foreseeable future, AI is a tool that can enhance and make a job perform better. So by having a data culture, by having a deeper understanding of it, should remove some of that anxiety. Hels, last one. What does an organization look like that isn't ready from a culture perspective?
Yeah, I do think this is the most important one as well. So a sign you're not ready would be having a culture where there's a fear of challenging the norms or, you know, the way we do things today. And probably having a culture where whoever shouts the loudest gets their way. I'm sure we've all worked in organizations like that. So subjective decision making as well would be a sign that you haven't got the culture right. On the being AI ready, I think an organization with a great culture in this space would have data literacy at all levels, data advocacy at all levels, have a data-driven strategy, data-driven insights. And by that, I mean, you know, that doesn't mean you just do what the data tells you. We still need to all use our brains. But yeah, having that culture of data and technology being embraced and used responsibly and informing discussions.
Thank you very much, Hels. Okay, so that's our sort of 6 pillars, and that's what we believe the impact on being AI ready is all about when it comes to each of those pillars. And what we've got here, we'll share these slides if you'd like, but this is basically a summary of each of the pillars against the transformation journey to say what the state of affairs should look like along that journey. So it gives you a bit of a quick indication on whether you're ready or not and what you should be doing in order to achieve it. But where can we help? Well, we at DataCubed, we offer a variety of services that can help on that transformation journey, on that data maturity journey. And just understanding Gen AI and AI in general. So everything from sort of just lunch and learns to, you know, jargon busting introductions to the whole world of AI through to full AI strategies and what that means for your business, what that means for your data within your business, and what you're going to get out of that, the return on that investment. Obviously, within that, we build the tools as well. So there's a range of services there that, if you are interested, we will be more than happy to have a conversation about. But as we've said, and the whole point of this webinar is to say, well, what does AI readiness mean, and how can you, as an organization wanting to start that journey or assess where you are on that journey, how can you start? And so at datamaturity.score.com is the free-to-use data maturity scorecard. It's a series of 36 questions. It shouldn't take you really more than about 15 minutes to complete. And the output of that will be a report that says where you are on each one of those pillars and a sort of direction of travel for what you should be addressing next. And then obviously we're more than happy to have a conversation about it. But datamaturity.score.com is where you can find that. And as I said, it's free to use. Please help yourselves. Okay, so that is the bulk of this webinar. So I appreciate your time. We do have another event coming up on how to leverage AI within your organization, and now this is going to be diving into the use cases, the more practical side of things, and we will obviously have or include within that the chance to explore your own Gen AI data interrogator. So we'll be looking at things like, as I said, what use cases should you prioritize, what tech should be used, and just generally how to get started. That is on Wednesday, the 27th of March at 10 a.m. And I think Helen is going to flash up a link to that event. So please do sign up. But over to everybody else. Do you have any questions that we can answer?
Awesome, thanks guys. That's like so much information. I'm sure everyone's just trying to sort of like take it all through, and obviously datamaturity.score.com is a great place to start. I think that it should help structure your next steps. So without further ado, the questions that we've got for now is, first question, do you think that the stats read out at the start are born out of fear and uncertainty about what AI is and what it will be in the future? One for you, Nick.
I think that the stats at the start, I think, well, if you, in a roundabout way, an answer. So over the last 20 years, there's been some technological revolutions that have happened, dot-com boom, 2000, smartphones, smart technology, 2006, going into cloud computing in the early 2010s. This AI one is the next one. So we are living through it. And at every single one of those steps, there has been fear of the unknown. And yes, there is fear of the unknown. And that's where a lot of the risks and the references to the Terminator have come from. But I do think that whereas in previous situations, there was obvious use cases, I think that the use cases for AI, particularly when it comes to organizations, is only just starting to be realized. And people are realizing about the state that the data is in, and that's what they need to sort out in order to achieve it. So I think, there's always fear. Fear is involved in everything. But I think especially over the next 12 months, 2024 is probably going to, we're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of where we are. And I think the amount of benefit is going to start to be realized. And I think, as Hel said earlier on, this is going to be a massive thing. It's very exciting, and we want to explore the world of possibilities here, and it's up to everybody to be able to sort of give it a whirl. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, exciting times for sure. Now, next question is there any easy equivalent of LLMs or ChatGPT for numeric or standard structured data rather than text? Hels, over to you for that one.
Yeah.
Nodding.
Yeah, so we're building Gen AI solutions, and there's simplistically there's two types we're building. One is the unstructured data, so lots of PDF documents, Word documents, PowerPoint documents, those types of things. And that was the example that we shared with you with the ESG data interrogator. That was that was kind of text information. But you can do what the other ones we're building is looking at structured data, which could be a database or data within a spreadsheet, number, just numbers, those types of things. So absolutely, the tool we're using at the moment, and it's, as I say, it's such a bleeding edge kind of space. We've selected Microsoft's OpenAI. It seems to have the most funding. It seems to be dominating the press. It seems to have the most testing, the most kind of proof at the moment. So we're using setting up Microsoft's OpenAI and pointing that at either structured data like a database, SQL database, or spreadsheets and those types of things, or unstructured data like Word and documents. So that's what we're using at the moment. What technology is going to win here? I think it's far too easy to say. So I think you've got to have an R&D approach where you select the best tech that seems right now, but you have an open mind that in 3 months there could be a different market leader, yet alone 3 years.
Just to add to that,
Yeah.
I was at an AI West conference yesterday, and something similar came up, and they were suggesting that the OpenAI technology is by far the most advanced at the moment, but actually picking one doesn't necessarily mean you can't pivot later in time. It is becoming more and more simple to switch from one to the other. So don't feel like if you dive into one, that's it forever, because it won't be. It's actually quite straightforward to switch out.
Lovely, great to see loads of questions about Data Interrogator tool as well. So obviously join the next event, but obviously we can be in contact afterwards to explain more and give you more of a bespoke demo if that would be of interest. Next question is, when you talk about a secure data interrogator, are you talking of the here and now, or is this something to come in the near future? When is it available? Obviously, yes, that's following on from the last question. And is it kind of bespoke, or is it an off-the-shelf offering?
So
yeah, oh, sorry, you go, Nick.
Okay, so it's here. It's what we are doing with organization is building proof of value concepts within their data. So you could literally have it within a few weeks if you wished. So it is not future. This is not a hypothetical thing. This is something that we have now, and more than happy to dive into it with you.
Good to go. So next question, how can sound data architecture be built into a pre-revenue startup that frankly has very little existing data but wants to take advantage of AI from the outset?
Yeah, we've worked with yeah, we've worked with startups, Joe, and you know, we can share a case study with you one-to-one where someone's come to us and gone, look, we're tiny, we don't have much data, we don't have much money, right? We're bootstrapped, but we've got big growth plans, and I don't want to set up a data architecture that I'm going to have to scrap, and it's going to be a costly migration in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, whatever, 1 year's time. And they've come to us and gone, so can you help me work out what I'm going to need in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years time, but just enable me to do the basics in the next 6 months for the lowest cost possible. So there's no right, you know, I can't tell you which tech it should be, because it totally depends on what type of data you're dealing with, what volumes, what your growth plans are, and those types of things. But we have worked with startups with that. I've got very little data today, I've got very little budget, but I don't want to mess this up and cause myself an expensive problem later on. So I think that's what your question is alluding to, Joe. And it's about getting ahead of it and planning for success, but starting small.
Great. And George is asking if there would be any risks associated with organizational culture and the way that we interact with AI and the way that we ask AI to do tasks. I think he's alluding to, like, if we're more polite to these machines, and they might sort of do a better job for us. But thinking about the culture and the way we interact with them, how would you recommend we approach it?
Goodness, I think this is a really interesting area that's yeah, I don't know, George. I think this is developing at such a pace. I think it's going to be fascinating. I think undoubtedly there will be risks is the short answer, but what they are, I feel there's so much uncertainty right now, and unless Nick, you want to talk to this.
Well, I mean, the only thing I'd say is that fear of the unknown is always there, regardless, and largely because of the press, people are thinking, okay, if I embrace AI, I'm not going to have a job tomorrow. Whereas, regardless of AI being a big leap forward, every day in your job you should be looking to try and create efficiencies so you can do your job better, and therefore you can concentrate on the things that really matter and push your job further. Now, AI is a tool. It's not the end of the game. It is literally just a tool to enable you to do those things easier and more efficiently and concentrate on pushing the boundaries of your job better. So as a culture within an organization, if you can try and get rid of that fear, maybe through just deeper understanding of what it's all about and the data culture within the organization, then you might find that the people within your organization are just firing on all 4 cylinders, that they are absolutely gunning it because they're not having to worry about the things that are less efficient.
Great, a few minutes left, guys, and a few questions to get through, so we'll do our best. So within
Oh.
We lost Helen. I think she was reading out within analytics, what measures do you typically put in place to avoid data being over interrogated by AI?
Okay, sorry. Do you want to?
Yeah, I think I guess it would depend. This would depend on your business and the use case you're trying to solve. It may be that it doesn't matter if your data is being over interrogated by AI, depending on your use case. So I think this is probably one that would depend on the specific examples. But you could put controls in place. But I think it would have to be done on a case by use case basis to see whether it made sense or not. So maybe that's something, Lisa, we can talk about offline and properly understand where you're coming from on that one.
There's also training involved. So so embedding anything like this involves an element of training, as in training the data, of which risks measures can be considered within.
Great. Thanks, everyone. I think that's just giving us enough time for today. And then we look forward to sort of catching up with you afterwards. But please do check out datamaturity.score.com as your next sort of starting point from here. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next one.
And just to say, if anybody would like the document or would like to ask some of the questions that didn't get time to answer, please just email myself at nick@data-cubed.co.uk. You'll be able to find us. LinkedIn as well. That's an easy way to do it.
And I think the questions we didn't get to, there were quite a few in there that were more about the tech. And our next one, you can talk to us one-to-one anytime you like, but the next webinar dives a lot more into the tech and the solutions and the process and how you get this working for you in a secure way, how you train and configure the tools and all those types of things. So for those of you who haven't got your tech questions answered, join the next webinar, because it's a lot more in the tech and implementation side of things.
Great. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it, and hopefully see you again in a few weeks' time.
Thanks all.
Thank you.